Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Did y'all make a count, see if we have enough?
Yeah, we just decided we had enough as soon as you walked in.
You need
Well, how nice. Thank you, Lou, appreciate it. Okay. Pen with you, who's got a spare pen?
Here you go, Mr. J. What?
You got my extra one? Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm here, Karen's not here, Boo's here,
Here,
Janice,
Here.
JJ,
I'm sure he's coming, he's got a report.
alright, Dr. Davis,
Here.
Cleve,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Jason,
Here.
Steve,
No,
Melissa,
Here.
okay, and Angelique,
Here.
Angie,
Here.
teachers rep,
yes,
Yep.
right here. That nice
Okay.
looking young man right here.
yes. All right, anyhow, we're going through that, everybody had a chance to look at the minutes.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any changes? We don't have any changes, they'll stand as presented. Anything on board training?
That would be JJ.
I did not get a chance to go to the, LAPCS conference as I had planned to. I've gotta have surgery on my foot and ankle, and they advised me not to do any prolonged standing or walking, so that's why I didn't go.
Oh,
I think JJ is the only one who went.
Yeah,
Okay.
Scott didn't go either, I don't think.
okay, well, we'll go on to the next thing.
Okay.
Teachers rep report,
Okay. So, for lower, we have ELA. Students are wrapping up their current reading mastery and CKLA unit before Christmas break. Next week, we will begin re-administering all students CKLA grade level placement tests to determine whether they will continue their current instructional level after the break or if they have demonstrated the skills required to move on to more complex instruction. Middle math, fourth is working on multiplicative comparison and fifth is working on long division. Tomorrow we are taking our final progress monitoring before break and looking forward to seeing the growth and preparing the students for the January middle of the year benchmarks. ELA is we are working hard on figurative language right now in both 4th and 5th grade. Right now, in general, Christmas celebrations on Friday for those who earn with points and behavior contingencies. We are looking forward to having some fun with the students as we head into the break. Upper ELA, the students have a chance to earn $10 to buy something off eBay. They can do this by completing races on ReadWorks written responses. Each letter is worth $2. Each ReadWorks is on the student's instructional levels. We complete a summary chart of the ReadWorks before students answer questions independently. During whole class instruction, each grade level is working on Unit 2 in Amplify. The 6th graders are reading about yellow fever. They will be tracking the sickness from start to finish and will analyze possible theories of why the fever started. The 7th graders are reading A Raisin in the Sun and analyzing characters within the play. They will be learning the differences between the structure of a play and fictional writings. The 8th graders are reading Narrative in the Life of Frederick Douglass and analyzing the text. They will look at claims and evidence made regarding the life of Frederick Douglass. Math, 6th grade is currently working on finding the surface area of a three-dimensional figure using nets. 7th is currently working on finding unit rates involving ratios and fractions. And 8th is currently working on dilations and similarity for different shapes on a coordinate plane. There is nothing else.
all right, any questions on that?
Okay, just don't forget to send a copy.
Yes, I will
Actually,
be
to
emailing.
Janice and Janice.
I'm good to see you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna email it to them and they're gonna forward everything
Okay,
to you guys.
thanks.
For my edification, what is figurative language?
That is a great question for one of the ELA teachers.
He's the math teacher.
Yeah, I'm the math teacher.
What is figurative language?
Figurative language is where you are using those poetic licenses in order to express a thing. Instead of saying the table is brown, the table was the color of roasted chestnuts. and that comes out to being brown. And also using hyperbole as well as metaphor,
And
similes.
similes, all that, okay.
Yeah, it's not literal, it's not the real world.
I'm glad I majored in social studies.
Mine was computer
Are you
science.
related to Judd Hubble?
I am,
Okay.
yes. He's
How
one
about
of the
Jimmy Hubble?
probably.
Yeah, Judd was in our psychology department.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go to the next item.
Thank you.
No problem. I'll email this to you guys.
Angie?
Can be excused. My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob.
I'm gonna leave this with you.
Yep, perfect.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Hubble.
you. You guys have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for coming. I know it's a different day, so appreciate y'all making it out here. We, if you had a chance to review the documents I sent the standard financial report. Really, the only thing major to note, if you looked at, obviously, wages and benefits are always our biggest expense, and they're a little more this go around because in November was when those certified and support staff stipends went out. So the wages and benefits are a little bit higher for the month of November than the previous months. But I usually like to side by side year to dates, and we are on track. Next month I'll have the quarterly numbers once we're done with the December numbers and stuff. So I usually like to do a quarterly financial report to give to you guys, and I'll have that. If you look at my recap, all of the reimbursement requests that I processed early this month have already cleared. So that's why the adjusted profit is a little bit more than what you see on the P&L statement for the month of November. Also, the audit is complete. Signed all the papers this week or late last week with Laporte. So everything looks great. I'll share those documents with you guys. They were in draft form, so I'll get the finals and I'll share that with you as soon as I get them. No major findings, nothing of note. Few little written policies type things that I can correct this year, but nothing major. Ms. Rodrigue and I did a couple of meetings about the super app for, believe it or not, 25, 26. Those due dates are coming up. So we started kind of collaborating and working on that. And if you also, Act 370, I think JJ's report was going to touch on that, something that he learned about at the charter conference. Act 370 is a transparency law, basically saying that it rolled out a couple years ago where we have to post our budget on the website, we have to post our audit on the website, on our website, but we also have to, starting in January, we have to submit to the U.S. Treasury a list of all of our expenditures, a list of all of our contracts, and things of that nature. So those are additional requirements. And so this week we got some templates and stuff. So I've been working on getting ready to roll that out. The due date is January 17th. So those are the major things that I've been working on. Also kind of getting ready for tax season. So I'll be rolling that out in January. But other than that, that's what I have. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Seems like you find her good.
Somewhat, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one is the grants issue. Is anybody working on anything for that?
We have been meeting with both Miss Lacey
Yeah.
as she transitions with Miss Emily for the L'Oreal grant coming up in January. But then we hit a wall because Miss Emily had her baby, and but Lacey has been working, gave us the scaffolding, and Mr. Noah and Miss Angie and I are putting in the information we need to do to make that happen.
We're
in
on
time.
track to get that submitted by January 31st, which is the deadline. So, yeah.
Thank you. As far as the building sites, we still have gotten nowhere on this awning.
But Mr. Anthony came today.
Yeah.
Oh, the awning.
No, for the awning.
Yes, sir.
But then Angelique asked about a partition being put in, and we'll probably schedule factor on that is gonna be, because in these schools, you gotta have metal door frames. And it's just gonna be the delivery on the metal door
Yes, sir.
frame that's gonna hold everything up, but hopefully, where's the partition gonna be?
It is going to be on one of the sides of that closet as you come into the building. There's a closet on the right-hand side,
Yeah,
because that's where there seems to be the most reinforcement, vertical.
right,
Okay. So ideally they would put it with the closet on the interior,
Yeah.
but it can go either way. The important factor is the partition.
okay, well, the main delaying factor, if any, is gonna be the steel door frame. Unless you want an 8-foot door frame, not some of those, but other than that, not the conventional one. It's 8-foot ceiling, so it would look funny with
8-foot door frame.
an 8-foot door frame. Anyhow, just a little comment there. So that's, all right, the next thing is update on the accountability framework. Jason?
Yes, sir. So, last month when the committee met, we were looking at the alternative framework and trying to figure out what performance metric best captured Max's growth for the kiddos. And the conversation centered perhaps on the math part of it, in terms of the school's in-house progress monitoring for math, and we explored looking at maybe making a change in that area. Since then, Ms. Roderick did crunch some of the numbers, and what she found is reflected in your packets
On the last page.
and
Very
on the
nice
last
page.
page. And it appears like it may be back to the drawing board, since the data that we had anticipate would be a better reflection of the growth in math, at least at this point may not be. Now, with that said, they have not yet gathered and obtained the winter benchmark data, and that'll occur in January when they come back. So, so again, the data in the math section of the in-house metric did appear like the one that's being currently used may be, a number that is better reflective, if not higher. And so we may need to go back and look at that again, particularly after the winter benchmark is collected and the data could be more clear. So it could change between now and in January.
Any questions on that, Jason?
This would be presented to, state.
That's what, and what I'm not sure of is to what extent would the school have to present a change in what would go into the accountability framework, because the state did
Allow options.
a list
to
some
choose.
options, and one of the options we were looking for was what was already, agreed upon from I think 2021. Yeah. And so-
We were kind of looking for something that would help better reflect how much our students progress, because we get them, you get a fourth grader that's for the first time and still can't read at the first grade level. Well, he's not going to do too well, but we have to have something that shows the progress of an individual student.
Right.
And I don't know how we do that.
Well, and what it's looking like is the numbers are reflective of growth in reading. Would you agree with that, Ms.
In
Rodriguez?
both indicators, we fared much better
Than in math.
in the ELA, which is a combination of the reading and also getting the supports and all the non-reading aspects that go along with the ELA when you support their struggles in reading with accommodations, but plod on to those grade level standards, those thinking standards. Yes.
So the data is reflecting a hit in math, both on the LEAP side of things and the in-house. And so kind of when you look at the alternative framework, those categories, those points are ultimately not being, earned in those.
And I think everything you're saying is what they need to know. Before they take a look, you always tell them how to interpret, and that's what you would have bullet points. We're not trying to flout the system, but we recruit a population that starts off way at the bottom and help other schools by taking these students. So if you let them know why we're doing this and then present it, I think.
And so hopefully what'll materialize will be just, a better reflection in
Right.
that, like I said, in that in-house math. And if that was the case, then the required point value would be satisfied for renewal. So, yeah.
So are we going to be recommending then that we use ELA as our benchmark instead of the math?
I don't think necessarily in terms of, it looks like, I guess the data's indicating that there's more work to be done in the area of math.
Correct.
Yeah.
We can't jettison any one of those two
Okay.
in our framework. That was the stipulation from the get-go. We have to be showing that we are working to grow children both in the area of their reading ELA and in their math. So it's not like we can just focus, oh, we did a great job growing them in ELA. If we are missing the mark on both the LEAP itself, the LEAP progress score, and our own in-house. Now, again, my caveat about this data in particular, both the iReady and the other two that we had as our original, last year was a rough year in math. I did bring to the board the different changes that went on and the difficulty finding someone who could come in and work effectively and empathetically with students that have the needs that our students have.
So
And
so
we
I
are in a
guess-
different place now.
So it's
with regard to
possible that, when those January numbers come, it will reflect, the changes like Mr. Rodriguez alluded to from last year to this.
Have you, when you get this settled, are you still going to take our last assessment and see if what you have changes what we had before? You understand we had a score before. It's already done. Suppose this had been in place.
And that's what
Would
we're
that have
looking for right now.
assisted
So if you look at
Okay.
this particular one, that 10 points were awarded for the student progress in ELA, none for math. So, well, let me back up and say that the sort of the magic number, if you will, is 50 points. And if you look at the bottom, like a score of 50 equates with the 3-year renewal term. So when you look at the column all the way to the right, 10 points are being earned for the student progress in ELA, none in math. When you go down to the shaded area, in the literacy growth at the bottom, where there's a 20 there, that's with the in-house metric that's currently being used, namely Acadians. That's Acadians.
Yes, sir.
So the missing link is in that last area where you see like there's only a 10 right there. What we need to figure out is to have kids grow to an extent to make that 10 or 20,
So you can
like it
okay.
is.
That's
And
enough.
so in essence, if there was greater growth in math with that in-house, like it is with the reading,
You would
then,
have made the 50.
right, you'd have your 10,
Okay.
20, 20 equals your 50.
And so the committee had asked, what if we didn't use Acadians and EasyCBM for this framework? What if we use iReady? Because we do have a second acceptable benchmarking instrument in place. So we do both EasyCBM and iReady Math. We do both Acadience and iReady ELA as a 3-time-a-year benchmark because we like to triangulate from those two scores. They both have a lot of rich information, and we want to see where the overlaps and differences are. So we do them anyway, and their question is,
So we thought
using those scores from last year, would we fare better?
And the answer is
Yeah.
maybe or probably not. So we thought that currently using the Easy CBM for math, that perhaps the iReady would be more reflective of the growth that was occurring. But at this point, you know, it may be too soon to tell. Being that the winter benchmark, so we only are going off on last year's and then the fall, so we don't have that kind of that growth from fall August to now for winter in January.
And that's crucial, we wanna know that
Yeah.
whatever you come up with will
Because
get
it's
us
not
where
only,
we
I mean,
want.
it's not only
Show us in
crucial
the
thing
best
to
light.
know
Right.
for this, but it's crucial thing for, you know, from an instructional perspective too, for teachers too, you know, to have that data, be reflective in the changes that they make instructionally.
It makes sense,
Mhm.
I hope they see that.
So have we officially adopted the iReady platform?
We've been using
I know you've been using it, but have we adopted it
Well,
and
and-
eliminated, what was it, ICBM or something?
Well, sir, we use both of them.
We use them both.
And I don't know, and I didn't mean to, but I don't know if the state at this point, if it's like in any kind of documentation that that's going to be used. Correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you report
I
from
report
the, from.
and I tell them what the scores are reflective of after having chosen it.
So what I'm thinking is that it may not require any kind of permission because it's already on the list.
Right.
So it's just plugging in the,
But the fact that we are using iReady now over a short period of time,
Well, I mean, we use iReady because it is part of our instructional platform.
okay,
It's connected to our math curriculum from first grade all the way through 8th.
I guess my point is that we should be given some leeway because we have not been using this for a long period of time, am I correct?
We've been using it for
it's
the
been
past,
gone,
yeah.
yeah. And I think it's just like Ms. Roderick said, it's another data set that they're utilizing, and she said, to kind of triangulate and look at different aspects and gather up as much as possible. So it was already occurring, and that's when we had, you know, in the committee meeting, we had said, well, hey, we're already using it. Might it be a better reflection?
Right.
And you know, it seems like
And using last year's numbers, if we had to renew last year, if I had to choose between the Easy CBM or the iReady, the Easy CBM was in our favor compared to the iReady.
but it could flip.
It could flip because it is in fact connected to our curriculum that we use, what we teach day in and day out in math. I think the biggest indicator for last year, the biggest factor for last year was in fact it wasn't until the last quarter that we had a stable instructional person that was committed to being here.
They won't take that into account.
Correct.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't have that problem right now.
So I guess the takeaway point is back to the drawing board in terms of, you know, once that data, you know, comes to light in January, it may tell a different story.
Jake, the meeting you had with in Baton Rouge, was the superintendent?
Yep.
Okay, and he said, show me what you're talking about, assuming this works out.
No, we didn't
No.
say, show me what you're talking about.
Okay,
Show me what you want.
want, okay. If this all goes well, and this is what we want, and you will go back to him, since he's the one who told you to do it, will he present that to Bessie?
Oh, I have no
Or
idea,
you don't
but
know
I
from
could sure
there?
approach him with it. I've got no second thoughts about doing it. But I never got from you folks, give me what you're looking for.
Yeah,
right?
that's just.
It's at this point it's unclear. Yeah. And what we
We
were
may find something.
where we were going to is, to me, the easiest, you know, the least you know, the path of least resistance was working with the framework that was already established where, you know, they've already said this is okay, and just plugging in the numbers from the list that would, you know, satisfy the list and reflect the growth. And that's kind of where we're kind of stuck at this point,
Yeah.
versus
So, to
coming
me-
up with a
To me,
different
when you-
framework.
When you look at this school, and you look at the state, the time we started the school, it would be hard to say start a school like this with today's ruling. What we were trying to do then was help kids that had dyslexia. Now, I looked at it this way, when the guy told me, tell me what you want, I thought we were gonna come up with a program that said, look, we can measure them when they come in the door, and we can start showing the improvement.
Their progress.
I think that's all we needed, folks. You know, and we tell them that this is how we want to be graded. Now, if we can take a kid, like you just made the example, came in from 4th grade and can hardly read and write, and all of a sudden we get him up to 3rd grade level, because that would be doable. It may not be fully everything you would know at 3rd grade level,
Mastered.
but by God, it would be pretty close to it. I think we would be accepted with open arms.
Well, we actually did get the 20 points in that area.
So,
We got all the points in that area for that.
so what I'm
That was
thinking,
in reading,
the
but we
sticking,
didn't bring them up in math.
Which
Yeah.
pulls us down.
and so I think the sticking point is going to be, there's, in my opinion, they're going to want to see leap in
Yeah,
it's,
you can't get around.
Look,
They won't-
look, I
So-
also made this, I thought, very clear that we can't get out of league.
mm-mm.
No.
And don't even think about it, because that's how you get your federal monies, okay? So don't even think about it, you gotta take leap, end of story. But what do you want this school to get? An A, a B, a C, a D, an E, or an F? Show improvements. And I think that's what we, look, you folks are the educators, I'm not, I'm just using reason from what the guy told me. Show me what you want. Now, he can refuse it. But I think if you're showing him that we can track all this, and look, we're improving in math, we're improving in reading, what else we're improving in, or what else should we be improving in? Angelique? What else should, I'm using math and reading, because that's what I'm familiar with.
And yes, sir. And they do have that as the components of the thing. One of the things that I pointed out to Mr. Talbot when he met with the committee, if there was a mathematical way of getting rid of the tripping points to the next level, because for example, we scored a 69%, which gave us all the 20 points for our ELA literacy, but we scored a 44%. If you look at the student progress at the top, though, we scored a 71.11 in our student progress ELA. Had I scored 8.9 points more, we would have gotten the 20 points in that spread. Is there a way for us to get 15 instead of 10 points for that?
Well, what is ELA?
That's for reading.
Oh, reading.
Reading.
Okay.
English language arts.
We last year we did get kids moving quite a bit in their reading. So we affected quite a bit of change. We have aligned teachers in ELA as of the year before last. All three of those teachers have gone through to a certain degree the CABAS training that you guys wanted to see brought in to the building, and they are aligned in what they do, both individually in their classrooms, but also getting those kids from 3 to 4 and the kids from 5 to 6 in those grade bands, and also getting those kids, like Miss Gore does an excellent job with those 8th graders, with an eye towards what can they expect to see walking into a 9th grade English class, and where they can hold their own. So we have done a lot of work in that, and using the state standards in order to guide what that is, while also paying attention to the prerequisites, those off-grade level skills that the kids do need to work on, because that's what brought them into the
CJ,
building.
all that you said, I think anybody would agree with, progress. But this isn't going away. You have to put all of those ideals that you just said that anybody would accept in here. Because this is where the A, the B, the C, this is what they're gonna use. So what we're trying to do is take those ideas and make sure that they're in here. Progress gets us on this,
With the best
on this
numerical
sheet.
feature.
Because this is how they're going to look, this is where they're gonna look.
That's how a group in a meeting is going to evaluate it. Push that aside. What's happening to the kid? That's the important thing. Damn how that group, I mean, to me it is, let me speak openly. To me it isn't
Oh, and I agree.
worth a damn what they think, because I've been in one of those meetings where I tell you, I could have knocked the hell out of every one of them in there. Okay, that's my general feeling. I don't care, don't worry about the mic. That's my general feeling. Because I know what parents have come to me and said.
Yeah.
There's a remarkable change in the individual. The individual now wants to go to school, whereas it cried to go to keep away from school.
I wish there were a way to quantify that. I wish there was a way that I could quantify that and then stick it somewhere
Well,
in this factor.
when we say, just let me think this thing through simply. If we say that person that can't read on a first grade level, let's as an example say we got them up to a 3rd grade level. Now maybe a 3rd grade level, not an A and not a B, but a C. Even a D wouldn't hurt. Is there a way of quantifying that? That's your sliding scale. You're not going to bring them up to an A. Forget it.
This is my thinking though.
No.
If our overall goal is to show student progress,
Yeah.
but the state is not going to change the way they calculate LEAP scores, I think our only alternative is to ask them to calculate LEAP scores for Max and Key Academy in a different way. To me, that's the only alternative we have. Because as long as they calculate it the way they're doing it now, our student progress is kind of like anti what they are saying we need to do.
But
Or too bad our stuff that we do here doesn't have more weight than LEAP, because
Yeah.
we know our kids are not gonna get an 850 on a LEAP, you know? So if this would be 65% of our rating and LEAP would only be the other, you know,
So give ours a greater weight then.
right, if they could do that, instead of being 50-50 or 60, you know.
And I would agree with that. I think my biggest concern is that
It
from
already is
the
20%.
state, right, the state has already determined what that gold standard is of what they accept as success, which is this, which is LEAP.
And our LEAP really is only 20% of this. 80% is on progress. If you look on the percentage of the final score, that's
yeah.
3rd to the last. It says percentage of final score, our progress on just ELA progress index for those kids who don't make the mark but have grown is 20%. Our progress for math progress index is also 20%. Our overall literacy the shaded areas are each 20%. So the LEAP is only 20% of our final score on this alternate framework. It is only 1/5. Everything else are progress indicators on here.
So because we have an alternate framework,
Yes.
do I hear y'all saying they're not gonna move on anything else?
I don't know
That
that they
we've
wouldn't
talked about.
move, but remember, before we got here, this was 3 years in the making.
Right.
Back and forth between the people at the LDOE that work with us under charter accountability, as well as the Bessie people. It was a long time ago, but with Dr. Hippolyte, and I only met her once, on the tail end of all the work that she was doing with her team for this framework. Because the original one that they had wanted required us to get some points in that student achievement ELA and math LEAP part in order to get any points. And she removed that caveat. She said 50. Get the 50 points somewhere. But the original one was some of those points have to come in that middle section. And she said that's setting you guys up to fail.
Yes.
So,
Don't you think?
so she took
So
that
she
part out.
removed it. So I think that's going back to what we were talking about in the committee last month, that it almost appears like that last box is where we seem to have the most control. Would you agree with that, Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes, yes.
And so that almost like that 10 needs to be a 20. Like at that kind of where it says 0 for iReady, 0 IR, 10 is with the Easy CBM. Because for the 44% of the kiddos making progress is in that partial credit. So we need to get that 44% up to 60%.
And that would give us.
That would give us what we
That would
need
give
to
us
sail
20
through.
points, and you would have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
All other things being equal, that would sail us through.
And you wouldn't have to rely on the State Department and Bessie reconfiguring what has already been established.
So what we're doing now, can that get us there?
I will be able to answer that more assuredly after January when we
Right.
run the benchmark.
So
right
last
now,
year's numbers, no.
no, this is from last year.
Right.
But what we're doing this year, we are running the progress monitoring
Right.
in conjunction with these benchmarks. And our progress monitoring has been showing a much better trajectory. And so in both the math side as well as the ELA side in-house. So I'm running the progress monitoring on
So
that.
do I hear you saying that what we're doing now could possibly get us?
We are seeing the fruits of the past 3 years in this
And
year.
I don't know if this is help, and forgive me if I'm telling you something you already know, but kind of the gist is that this diagnostic assessment shows where the kid is, and it portrays to the teacher where the breakdown is. So then the teacher, in her wisdom and experience, has to say, these are the interventions and the instructional provisions that we're going to, give to this kid to make it better. So the diagnostic is showing like where the kid is and ultimately where he needs to be, and then the instructional side comes in to provide the support, teaching and intervention wise, to get that kid, make that kid better. And that's what's happening better now
Yeah.
than it did last year, because
We've changed that.
correct. And then there's with the staffing issue has been rectified.
The intervention for specific.
So it's
students.
it's happening now.
All right, when
But-
do we think we could have something to at least begin to call a meeting with him?
Well, do you think, Ms. Rodriguez, in January that number will at least give us from the fall to the
Yes.
winter?
Yes.
Will at least give us But it ultimately, correct me if I'm wrong, goes
It's
from
ultimately it's
fall
from
to
fall
spring.
to spring, because
So
those are the only
August
things they care
to
about.
May.
Like, and there were quite a few kids last year that we saw do this. Like, they took the January test and it's like, oh yes, we've got it. And, you know, spring is hard, especially when you have a month and a week of testing, which is now close to 2 months this year.
So at that point, then kids are like in LEAP and they're doing this and they have spring fever and they're ready for school to end. It's like, okay, do your best on this assessment. And
What does the 44 again have to be? I know the 20.
look at in the
It
it's
has to
60.
be-
The 44.
Look in the middle column, Dr. Davis.
Mhm.
So it's 40 to 59.9. If that's the percentage, then you get 10 points. But if at 60, and even 60, that awards you 20.
20.
And
So
we
you
scored
need
44% last year, and that's what that 44 is. It's what
Yeah.
we actually
For easy
scored
CBM.
in easy CBM. The growth, the targeted growth
Yeah.
for the number of students we're at 44%.
So this will help you
Yes, sir.
know where we are.
Yes, sir.
And if all of the plowing we've done is going to continue and,
So
so
going,
it's coming, Jake and Jake.
so Mr. J, going back to what your question a few moments ago, is that if this worked its way out, there would be nothing to ask for.
Correct.
Because
Don't
what
forget, if we walk in there and say that if you follow this, there's nothing to be asked for.
well, what I'm saying, so if it happened, then these criteria would be met to adequately to reflect the renewal. So it would not require any sort of back and forth about changes to the already established. If that makes sense. So that to me
if
seemed to
data
be
comes in
the path of least
appropriately,
resistance.
Yes,
this-
sir.
we can still use this
Yeah.
and we'll have
Well, I still say that, if they are not going to do anything at all to touch LEAP, and when he asks the question, what do you want? That puts us in a bind, because student progress is the only thing that I know that we can show. And if that's not going to count for anything, especially when you're talking about individual students,
Now,
then we're in a bind.
Now, perhaps we need to, take a look at changing, and Ms. Rodriguez alluded to this, changing the parameters in what numbers get you 0 or 10 or 20, like perhaps an intermediate level where,
What I did is I just took that breakdown at the top.
Mhm.
It's by the score from 0 to 150, and they have it at 20, and then 10 points, and then none. But if you split it up to where the none is 0 to 29.9, 5 from 30 to 59.9,
Exactly.
and then 60 to 69.9 is 10, and 70 to 79.9 is 15, then the 80 and above is 20. Well, in ELA, we'd have a 15 instead of a 10,
Correct.
and in math, we'd have a 5 instead of a 0.
That's a change, and that's what
That-
we want.
yeah.
Then we have to say that's what we want.
And then if you look down at the bottom at the percentage, it's got it from 0 to 100%. Put in a mark, okay, it's got full score 20 points if you get from 60 to 100%. Well, let's do the 15%, halfway, 40 to 49.9, you get 10, 50 to 59.9, you get 15, 20% to 39.9%, you get 5. If you get less than 20%, you get 0.
Almost like a grading scale.
Yeah.
Or
Instead of
a
like boom, boom,
gradient.
boom, like they have a 10-point grading scale, why can't we have a 10-point grading
No.
scale?
If we change
And that would give
this,
us 20 and 10, and we're looking,
if we change this,
we've been
are
looking at
we
50 points
divorcing
last year.
ourselves from Key Academy? Cause they're gonna have to accept that change?
Well, to me, it would behoove them to want to accept it.
It would be better for them.
Yeah, it would be better for them as well. And that, we did mention this, if you remember, Ms. Laird, in that meeting as well. And we kind of focused more on that in-house for math, but changing the gradient, you know, and give some extra steps could.
Well, I was just sticking with what they've got here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
To me,
yeah.
if we could show individual student progress, what percentage of students progress a year, in a year?
Mhm.
You know, if they started out at 3rd grade in the 5th grade and they got up to 4th grade, they progressed a year. Boom, that's a score. You know, if we could do that, not get them up from down at the bottom to where they're supposed to be in 1 year, and we have to bring them up 4 years. You ain't gonna
And
do
so,
that.
and we would need to clarify, like, kind of that improvement from one grade to a grade level to the next, but according to what, like, we'd have to define that metric. You know, what would define moving from one grade level to the next? That would, I mean, that's something that we could talk about, but that would be something that we would need to have clarified, you know, for that discussion.
And also crunch the
And
numbers.
crunch the numbers.
Because if you look at the shaded area with the in-house scores that I ran last month, where it was at 69% in ELA growth, that include meeting a target that wasn't necessarily a full year. So if I'm looking at specifically a full year, that number drops.
So this was just, yeah.
Because you gotta keep bringing it up that last, when all they're doing is taking tests
This is-
rather than.
This
learning
is
something.
this is showing a growth target that may not necessarily equate to a full year.
It's moving up on the reading or the math ladder, if you will.
But showing that they are making
But they're
an adequate
moving
progress.
up.
Well, I was at Rotary yesterday. We had, the superintendent of Pouche Parish, was our presenter. And he was talking about the new LEAP. And basically what they're going to do, it's gonna be a bell curve. 10% of the schools are gonna be A. 10% are gonna be Fs. And then 20% are gonna be Bs, 20% are gonna be Ds, and the rest of it's gonna be, a C.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect bell curve. So there's gonna be fewer A schools and probably more F schools.
What's gonna happen to the F schools?
According to this, you don't get renewed.
They're gonna close them.
And it's all about trying to bring in, charter schools.
But then a charter school is gonna have a similar problem. The only thing a charter school is gonna have, it may be many things, but it'll probably be a little bit easier to have discipline without political consequences.
Right. Or you could do like BCA, and it costs you gotta have.
Yeah, but BCA is taking the cream on the milk.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's
what happens to the rest of the milk in the bottle?
That's what happens to the public schools.
You know, this is where,
It's all screwed up is the problem, and it's going to get worse.
look, you've got a child with dyslexia, and you do nothing with him or her, and what does the data show? Everybody looking at data, they're gonna wind up in prison, right or wrong.
Right?
Yeah. So we prison type one.
About 80% of the ones in prison has learning difficulty. Is those numbers good or bad anymore? That's what it used to be.
83%.
83%.
Yeah.
No. But if you take somebody and you just improve on them a little bit, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's what's gotta be sold to whomever in Baton Rouge. If they don't like it, then we can't achieve what we're trying to do. And they are then taking these students and open them up to what we just talked about, where they're going to have a good chance of them winding up. This is what you're really trying, my initial intention
Right.
was, you're trying to help the ones with dyslexia. They're not gonna be an Einstein or an A student, let's say, in the normal grading procedure. But at least they'll be a C student, maybe. At least they'll finish high school. At least they'll be able to get a good trade and maybe go on from
And
there.
some of them go much further than
Or
that.
there'll be Jalen, or, yeah.
Look, I just spent
You
the
got one that's
last
finishing,
week with,
worked here.
I just spent the last week that one graduated from here, that went to Ruston, got a degree in civil engineering. Now he's been having a job with the city of Houston, and he's now approving the prints, the drawings that come up in Houston for new construction. That's not a simple task. That's one of our students.
Richard Branson
Where
is a
was
billionaire.
the kid heading before? For disaster. There we are. It's impossible to convey this to the layer, people in education in Baton Rouge, to the superintendent who can possibly get you something set aside where you have your standards and you go forward. That's what we're trying to do. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think I'm not gonna say every, but the majority of people in the legislature, they can probably define dyslexia, but they don't really know what it is. They have no clue about what children are going through. And the only way we're going to ever make any progress in that area, I personally think, is that we get somebody like Bill Cassidy on our side. Now, I know he's a U.S. Senator. He doesn't have a lot of influence in the state legislature. But until we find somebody in the
Well, the
state
thing is, I understand their school doesn't even take the leap. Am I right or wrong?
No, you have to be.
I think that was just right at the beginning, when you could, there was a time when you could opt out. So I think
But they
that
do.
might have.
They do. They
They
show
do
up.
take the leap
They
now?
show up on the reports.
Yeah, they do now.
You have to take the lead, yeah.
But,
They don't seem to have a
okay,
problem getting renewed.
what kind of rating do they get? Not on the leap, you know, when we make an F, how does that F compare to what they had? They had an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F?
From what I've seen, they're higher, but in the same range.
Yeah.
But they have the ability to recruit better students, right? Isn't that what somebody said? Their no?
I think that's the key, Al.
They're right in the middle of a neighborhood, a big neighborhood.
Yeah.
But what's their student population as compared to Max? When you deal with
Well-
a small number of people,
Well, to the
it can affect.
they have a
Three kids
larger.
make a big difference.
They have a larger volume. I mean,
Yeah.
we're looking at Max having 100 kids versus probably about 500. So just the number, of kiddos that attend, Keble will help. Will help the numbers.
One kid doesn't do it, that's 1% of your population. They have to have 5 kids that don't do it.
Continue on, let's come up with something. When we get there, let me know, we'll take
So,
it
Jason,
back up.
if the data supports what you want to do, the first thing we discussed, if that works out, that's probably a big hope right there.
Correct.
If the data works out in January with this, where you said we don't have to change anything, that's our biggest hope right there. And then we go, if that doesn't work, what you said,
What they said,
Become a
the
private
different
school.
tiers,
Tiers.
added
Take
tiers.
damn well.
is,
And then we'll, when we meet,
I'm not
when we
serious
meet
with that.
again, we can look at those things of, those intermediate levels as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably not going to be in January or early enough for us to get the data that you're talking about. It might be a February meeting that we can have.
All right, so you're gonna take that and run with it, okay.
Jason,
So hopefully we'll have something
thank you, and Jason, you're doing a good job.
Oh, well,
with
thank
that.
you.
That's a
But our
horrible-
next meeting is January 30th, so hopefully, when do you guys do winter benchmarking? Like, I know
Right
not,
before MLK.
okay, so about
We
mid to
so we come back.
the latter
on,
part of the,
we come back on the 6th, not that week, but the week after.
okay.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have, perhaps we can be right before this one and have an update ready from that.
Okay, the next item, principal reassessment. Dr. Davis and Dr. Hill, who's taking that?
Can we defer that? We need to go into an executive session. Can we defer that?
Can we refer that to the end of the meeting? Or you
Yes.
want?
Uh,
Yeah, let's, can we hold that till the end of the
Yes,
meeting?
please.
Yeah, we need
I
to-
was gonna put it at the end of the meeting, but I thought I'd be here for and could vote, you know, cause I'm leaving right now.
Well,
All right, well, listen,
we still need to go into executive session.
Yeah.
all right, look, 'cause the rest of the people who's not on the board, move just 1 minute more.
Yeah.
Look, everybody who's not on the board, just wait out there in the hall,
This is mine. It's in session.
and do I hear a motion that we go into executive session?
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and second, everybody's in favor?
right.
All right, go ahead.
So while we're in the executive session, we have to decide if Ms. Rodriguez should stay for this meeting or step out and then come back when we call her. That's a board decision.
Whatever you want, no.
I mean, I'm
feel
okay if
comfortable?
you want me out of here. Like, if you have anything that you need to air out, that's fine.
No,
No.
No,
No.
stay in.
let's procedural.
You don't have a choice, stay in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cleve.
All
I
right.
have to.
What I gotta say, you gotta hear.
Okay, Bill,
Give us 5
I
minutes.
need to get 5 minutes.
Give us 5 minutes, okay.
go ahead.
I'll be as quick as I possibly can. In your packet, we had a ad hoc committee report. I wanna focus everybody to that first sentence in the third paragraph. Ms. Rodriguez updated the committee on performance factors that have been successfully set in place. I think that's one thing that we need to keep in mind, because on the principal evaluation rubric, and there were some places that Ms. Rodriguez gave herself a 3, and I thought that she should have a 4, because these things were in place. And from what I know about education, once you have things in place, you may not have any measurable results for 2 or 3 years. With a school like dyslexia, it may be 5 to 7 years. So we have those things in place. We have CARVAS in place. We have PDLCs in place now. We won't possibly see any measurable results for the next 2 or 3 years. But if we keep it in place and keep working at it, especially the PLCs with diligence, I think we're going to see some measurable results. So I'm gonna be giving her some recommendations where we, and Dr. Davis and I met, with her. We're gonna give her some recommendation that she upgrade some of the scores that she gave herself, okay? That's gonna be one recommendation. You can chip in, I'm trying to hurry so that Boo can stay in for the vote. We're also going to recommend that the minutes of the ad hoc committee meeting and the recommendations, and what else, we wanted to make sure that you upload that with the,
Yes, sir.
the policy itself that allows us to do that, okay? The only other thing we need to mention is, and Ms. Rodriguez enlighten us on this,
Yes, sir.
we don't know what's gonna happen next year for
No, sir.
evaluating the principal. We don't know how this is gonna be in effect. Hopefully, they will allow us to keep doing what we do now. However, if they make us use the new rubric that Louisiana has come out with, that means that some of us are going to either have to go get trained to do the evaluation, or we're gonna have to bring in somebody who's already trained, and that's gonna be a cost.
Yeah, the rules have changed. Cause I was in at the beginning and went through all the training and then we changed.
It is drastically changed. So when we come out of the executive session, please chip in. We're gonna make two recommendations. One is we're gonna recommend that the board accept our report. And number two, make a recommendation that the board as a whole approve the principal's evaluation with the recommendations that we will give.
Okay, all right, you ready, we can take that vote outside of executive session.
Yes,
don't
we have to.
Okay,
You have to make a motion in the
Do I
regular.
have my motion, we come out of executive session?
So moved.
It's been moved by Larry and second by
Second.
Cleve.
Got that, John?
All in favor?
No,
Okay. Now we come back in and, you wanna make the motion?
Yes. The first motion is that, the committee that, served to discuss the Sprague Region evaluation, we are requesting that the board accept that report for our records.
All right.
Second it.
Is there a second to it?
I did.
Who seconds it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay,
Second.
congratulations.
Okay, second motion is for the board to approve the evaluation of our principal, with the necessary recommendations.
You making that motion?
I'm making that motion.
Second.
Yes, and Larry second. All in, any opposition?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to allow you to go ahead and upload all of the necessary? No, you're gonna just, okay, so it's.
Okay. Well, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Y'all just pray I get one.
Sorry to keep you.
She's gonna
Okay.
send you the video.
Cleve, is there anything else on that?
No, we got it covered.
Okay, so we went into the executive session, we've done that one. Well, principal's report.
Yes, sir. Okay, so, results are back from SM monitoring. There were instances of non-compliance in the area of homelessness. I had a Zoom meeting with the, LDOE, directors and coordinators involved in that. To give you a bit of context, this is what they monitored me on, and these were the findings. So it was quite hefty what they monitored on. And as we did talk, we had a policy, but we did not show the amount of meeting, training, and professional development. And so I'm working with them now on a plan to show correction of where we fell short in that monitoring. So that would be Ms. Miles from the State Department, and I have already met, and I plan on Zooming with her again back in January after I've made a little bit of headway on some of these things.
Did you use the word homeless?
Well, it's the
Or did I
McKinney-Vento.
misunderstand you?
It's the McKinney-Vento Act. We have to be in compliance. It is a federal program, and as the receiver of federal funds, we have to be in compliance with the McKinney-Vento Act.
Got you, go ahead.
I did get the training, but now it's about disseminating. You're gonna hear a lot more about this in every one of these board meetings. Okay? We are on break starting this Saturday, or 3:05 this Friday. Not that anyone's counting, right? And we return on January 6th. Now, over the Thanksgiving break, we did, Miss Berflot here got us funding, a grant from the federal government in the area of safety, and we had our cameras at the doors, all of our entryways, and into the parking lots. They have been installed, updated cameras. Wow, do they work great, even in the dark. I can't help myself. I looked at the school last night at 9:30. Like every one of the cameras cycled through and it's like, oh, there's nobody there. That's good. I feel happy. So we can do remote viewing. Well, I can, and administratively we
Terrific.
can go that. So aside from that, we are, as Mr. Jake said, we are working on a second door in the entrance to have just limit access to the student occupied areas of the school when we are in operation. Nichols Opera, put it on your calendar, ladies and gentlemen, May 1st, 3rd, and 4th. We had our Christmas program this past Sunday at St. John's. Oh, they were little angels and darlings. If only I can just always have that in mind. Absolute angels. They sounded so beautiful. Cabas, Doctors Weber and Shamman continue to do video conferencing. In fact, a few of the teachers are conferencing right now as we speak with them. I think that they're going to be here in January. I'm not 100% sure because they weren't 100% sure, but they're trying to get in at the beginning of the new year to touch base with us. And of course, transportation, we still have no other applicants. Any questions?
Well, short and sweet.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions? Being no question, we'll go on to the next item, PTA.
The only thing I have is that on Friday, PTA is providing a meal and gifts for the staff for Christmas. We're going with spars, so they're gonna have blackened chicken pasta, green beans, salad, hush puppies and beignets, I think. That's what we're getting.
That was on the menu, yes, ma'am.
So, other than that,
So what time are we?
yeah.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Well, thank you very much, highly appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, next thing with, our next board meeting, January 30th, we said that. We've already gone to executive session, we got the foundation meeting, right after this, PTA is, January 8th. And everybody, don't forget, do the ethics training.
At the end of the month.
Okay, do I hear a motion, anything else coming in front of the board? Do I hear a motion, we adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved,
Second.
Cleve seconds, we adjourn. Now, call the foundation board meeting. My dear?
I didn't do anything. Miss Sadie did, but she gave me a few. She gave Janice a few financial statements. If you guys wanna take a look and see. Sorry, I should have did this before. Oh, you have it, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.